Hello, the John Sitton Football Uncensored podcast with me, Joe Mealing, asking the questions as always. Been a bit of a delay. New Year's, Kipper season, January blues. We're coming out of it now. So
all of the above.
Before we do a podcast, we thought we'd touch base. John, what's the crack?
Yeah, good. You? How you been?
Yeah. I've just mentioned off air to coin a phrase. Done the old bloody hammer and tack. But you know, sat your right seat in a chair. Go on.
That'll teach you. You've got to warm up properly. You've got to warm up properly, and it gets harder as you get older. Trust me. Yeah, it's the hiatus, you see, of not doing any podcasts. Although, having said that, I think what we've got to do keep having a long layoff because we've ended up with more subscribers. So maybe people are saying, "We'll keep your trap shut." If you keep quiet, we'll sign up to you.
well, yeah. I mean, it is. All joking aside, it's finding that balance, though, isn't it? Because I'm sure, you know, people don't want to be listening to us just every single week regurgitating and talking about the fixtures, and you know, it's probably better to leave it a little bit longer because then you can actually have more of a view as to the way that the league's shaping up in a more holistic sense, as opposed to a very granular what's your predictions type thing.
And look how much water's gone under the bridge since we last spoke. You've had sackings, you've had semi-finals, you've had people sort of going off to the thing and affecting their team. Was it the African Cup of Nations?
Yeah, AFCON, yeah.
Transfer speculation, etc. Yeah, so it's...
Villa have brought in some good players, haven't they? You got Coutinho and Ramsey now, so...
that's nice. It's a nice thing for the manager, isn't it? So for people saying like he was the attraction, you know what I mean, and legend as a player, etc. And he's brought in a couple of good... although albeit one of them alone, he's brought in a couple of good bodies. Yeah,
very, very much so. Yeah. Well, it's funny. My initial take on the Carabao Cup was, for some reason, these semi-finals seem to have been the most high-profile Carabao Cup semi-finals in for a long time. Certainly, as far as I can remember, because I watched them all. Seemed to be a big build-up to those games. In previous years, the Carabao Cup sort of fallen by the wayside, and no one takes
it seriously, but 4 out of the top 6 are in the semis.
Yeah, and they were good games.
4 out of the top 7, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah, and it wasn't a pure second string. Obviously, there was a few players that they brought in. Like, you know, I think Liverpool had the second string keeper, and so did Chelsea actually. But you know, there were still big players playing for every team, and they were good games. So it might be worth. Well, should we touch on Chelsea Spurs in that sense? Chelsea eased through really quite comfortably. A bit of a demolition at the bridge, and then they nicked a 1-0 in the second leg. What was your? Actually, no, I was going to do Liverpool first, wasn't I? Let's do Liverpool first. Let's do Liverpool first. Liverpool Arsenal. Again, Liverpool got through without Salah and Mane. But I don't know about you, but you know, I suppose Arsenal just come up against what is essentially a better side, and Liverpool did show that they can get results without those big 2 players. They've got strength in depth, and they've got some decent young players coming through Liverpool.
Yeah, I think they showed Liverpool a little sort of insight into the future with regards to how they deal with things without, particularly my favourite, Salah, if he can't come to conclude a deal, can't come to an agreement with Liverpool over a new contract. I was reading an article about it, just catching up on the newspapers. He's saying about he wants X amount, they want to do X amount. As a consequence of his age, I think he's coming up 31, or he is 31.
Yeah.
And he wants a deal that takes him up to 35, but it's like length of deal versus amount. You know what I mean? So rather than a short-term deal with loads of money, he wants to lengthen it out, which I think he's more than capable as an athlete of doing. But with him and Mane going off to the African Cup of Nations, I think it's a little insight into how they'd probably cope without him.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is, I think it showed how well drilled they are, as opposed to Arsenal, who seem a little bit confused to me at the moment. After putting together like a semi-decent run, he sorted the discipline thing out with by laying the law down with Aubameyang, and
yeah.
don't look like there's any way back for him, in my personal opinion. And, you know, they're probably looking to offload him. There's whispers of him going to Newcastle. Well, that's fine. You know what I mean? I've been in that situation yourself where you're happy to get rid of a problem and pass him off, and then for momentarily the player reinvents himself. I said it in my book, you know, albeit for a short space of time. If someone's a problem, unless they make a radical change like I did in my career, because I became a problem at Chelsea when I was a kid. What happens is you're just basically getting rid of the problem, passing it on to somebody else. They'll have a mini renaissance. In this case, it might be at Newcastle, and then normally they slip back into old habits. But sticking the specifics in terms of Liverpool, yeah, I didn't realise how long. I think they was talking about his. Is it 5 years he's been there now? And you can show how, as in Klopp, it shows in the way they just sort of slot in.
Yeah, like cogs in a wheel.
Like mid-game, like they said, obviously they'll have their pre-match organisation, and then like sort of mid-game management, they seem to just slip in. I've got to be honest, having watched the second leg, I did think Arsenal played into their hands a little bit. They weren't. I mean, it's about when you're defending, particularly if there's no pressure on the ball. Like I think the long diagonal where is like some sort of revelation where he steps into midfield, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he hits a long diagonal. It's about gauging your depth, and it's about staying compact. But it's like I've always said on previous podcasts, and just to reiterate, it's not just about being compact up the field. It's about being compact in terms of your width. If you look at how far apart, first of all, the furthest centre back didn't have a clue where Jota was, and then secondly, the fullback should have been over more and tucked in. And if you're going to, if the ball's going to go across you, you need it going across the face of you, not dissecting you. And that's at that level, really and truly. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was just about to say, Joe, at that level, I can't believe things like that. Now and again, it's going to happen where you'll have a thing of genius, you know what I mean? But just you look at that and you just think, no, that was too easy. They just got carved open far too easy. And then going forward, when they got it, you look at the opposite thing is where like Liverpool basically got back and tucked in and doubled up on people like Saka. Because they know the kid's got ability.
Yeah, I was just thinking I think it was Ben White, wasn't it? You know, Jota pulled off him, and then immediately when Trent's got time, you know, he can put the ball on a sixpence. But when you're a centre half, you wouldn't think to allow a player to be out of eye shot. I mean, you've got one job: concentrate on that man. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it falls on deaf ears. I can only say what I would have done. I mean, at Chelsea, it fell on deaf ears. But if the ball's off at an angle like 40 yards away, the geezer's just stepped in. And I used to coach it, and so it's not a revelation whereby if the midfield player drops out to get the ball, it goes into the front man. There's no reason why if as he drops out or if he makes a run off the front man, why the fullback can't tuck in and become an extra midfield player like Trent Alexander. But the flip side of that, which is the main point we're making, is if I'm Ben White, first of all, if there's no pressure on the ball, I'm going to make sure my position's right. You understand? There's no pressure on the ball. So what I've got to do, I've got to drop off. I've got to sag off and basically deny the space in behind and make sure I can keep the ball. And the man I'm maybe meant to be marking or the man that my partner's marking, I can see both. Right, and then as you do that, you say to the fullback, get in here, tuck round, get round, and make sure. You make sure you're in the right place, and then you're bossing other people to make sure they're in the right place. And like I say, if the ball's going to go long, it's going to go long across you, not in behind you. And for me, it was too easy, far too easy. And he's got a bit about him normally, and all. He's got a bit of pace as well, hasn't he, Ben White? So,
yes.
But maybe that's part of the problem because I've found it all through my career. Players, I was told, maybe a couple of inches too short, but maybe not a yard short, not really quick enough. But you tend to find that players who have got pace take it for granted.
Yeah.
So they compromise themselves. They're lazy mentally. So as the picture changes, they don't change with it. You understand?
Yeah.
So they're lazy, knowing that, and just go boom and shift down a gear and put it, and then go crack up into overdrive and just make the recovery run or make the ground up and get under someone and put the tackle in. You understand? But you can't keep doing that, because inevitably what happens is in the end you're going to get caught out, because you'll come up against someone either as quick or quicker than you, and or as you get older, it becomes harder to adjust your game. Yeah,
it's really interesting. Obviously, Carl Walker's always been that type of player, and he's never learned. He's always relied on his pace. He's still got his pace, which is why he's playing for Man City. But it always, I think, certainly for England, is liable to make a howler.
I agreed with him. I agreed with him.
Yeah,
I agree with. I thought he was magnificent punditry when he. I mean, I love him, Roy Keane, because he'll see it, he'll break it down, and he'll say there's no filter. He'll say what's on his mind. And for me, that's, you haven't got to pay this lip service to sort of industry. So it's like an unwritten rule where you don't criticize someone within the industry because you've just come out of it, but he'll say he actually does what you should do, which I think is evolved from player to coach, then to manager. He was coach under Martin O'Neill, but before that he was manager, and he looks at the game as a manager. And he hit the nail on the head with someone like him, Carl Walker. He said he's whatever he is now, 31, coming up 32, and he's still making the same mistakes now that you would as a 21-year-old. You won't think he's got all that experience, but which is probably an unfair example, because we ain't heard sort of any real howlers.
No.
Of late, but
no.
It's just to give an example. So what you got to do, you got to learn quickly. If you're given the opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, surely, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you learn from them. If you continually make the same mistakes, there's a big problem, isn't there? That's just in life, not let alone football. Yeah, I assume.
I thought what Arsenal did, they gauged the depth wrong. At times they were nice and compact. They moved up, especially in the early part of the game. They played as close as they could to the halfway line, knowing that they never had. One assumes, and it turned out wrongly as it happens, that Liverpool never had anyone to threaten the back, because normally they hit you on the rebound within 2 or 3 passes is in the back of the net, because you've got blistering pace coupled with ability and immaculate first touch with Mo Salah and to a degree Mane. So you're always worried about what's the ground in behind you, the amount. So you try not to leave too much grass in behind you, but it got exploited anyway. It's just that lapse of concentration. That's what happens at that level. And a long time ago, I had a little dabble at that level, and it basically nothing's changed. You switch off for a millisecond and you're punished. That's the quality. That's the level you're talking about.
Terrifying, isn't it? I imagine.
Yeah. And it's just a shame, because one would assume they'd done the hard work at Anfield with a 0-0.
Yeah, exactly. I want to just very quickly ask you a question on Thomas Partey. So they made a big point on commentary that he'd literally just arrived back from Africa at midday. He then brings him on, and he gets sent off within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to put myself in his shoes. Thomas Partey, he's just been playing for his country in a major tournament.
Yeah.
Your adrenaline's going mad. You're flown back from wherever. I don't know where the actual tournament was, but you imagine there's some jet lag there. He's then got to immediately go straight to a game, big game, semi-final game. He's on the bench, and he brings him on, and he's got to get up to speed after it. It just don't make any sense to me why he would bring him on.
I totally agree. I wouldn't have even had him in the match day squad unless they would unless he's trying to highlight. I'd take a little bit of reverse psychology and highlight the lack of, in inverted commas, lack of bodies. The lack of strength in depth, lack of players due to COVID, because I think he's far more intelligent than that. He's far cleverer than that, Arteta. He's done it, maybe he's done it and it's backfired on him in terms of the reverse psychology to highlight these things. Because in no way, shape or form would he, for my money, he wouldn't have even been in the squad. Never mind on the bench.
No.
You've got all the aggravation of flying back from the AFCON, and then you know, you've got the stress of the journey itself. The street might not, who knows? I mean, I'm as I've got older, I've got worse. So I don't particularly enjoy flying. You got a thing. You have to just sort of grin and bear it until you get to your destination, so you can have a break. You know what I mean? So he might not be. So you got all the stress of the journey, and then he's expected to be on the bench, and then he brings him on to perform. And then you're looking at two. Probably the first one was a bit harsh, but the two not particularly good tackles.
Yeah, just off the pace, isn't it?
Yeah, he's off the pace, a yard short.
Yeah.
And if as you're on your way in, you know they're going to lend it round you or play it round you. So yeah, for me it was a strange one. It really was a strange one. But maybe, like I say, he done it to highlight the lack of trying to show everyone we ain't really got, with all the COVID floating about. This is just to underline why it is we got the Spurs game called off.
Now, I don't know. I mean, certainly from my, it'd be interesting to know whether or not that type of behaviour happened in your day. But I can only remember someone like Mourinho doing that, where he tries to send messages constantly to the board and to the fans or whatever based on decisions he makes on the touchline. But is that a new thing, or is it always happened? Because I'm surprised Arteta would bother getting involved in all that. It seems he's too, I don't want to say he's too young, but I don't know if he thinks he's more intelligent than what he is. I think he should just concentrate on fucking being a manager and stop.
Yeah.
He's very, what's he playing at? I'd go mad if I was on the board. I'd say, what the fuck are you doing?
Going on what I've read, his relationship with the new director of football is a good one. That's the first thing. Secondly, did it happen in my day? Yes.
Okay.
Did it happen in my day as a player? Yes. Did it happen in my day as a coach manager? Yes. Although what I did, I just basically blurted it out, which might explain, the oversimplistic way of doing things. And all you can do is what you can do, and say what you say what's on your mind. And I did it once on an interview, and the old chairman Tony Wood said you basically shouldn't have said that publicly. And I said, all right, fair enough. But I'm just trying to make the supporters aware of the fact that we've got a transfer embargo. Unless we can find someone who scores goals, they live within the M25, and they're willing to accept 250 quid a week. And it went out on, albeit small potatoes in comparison, Radio Essex. Basically, the world and his wife in the locale knew, or they should have known, they should have realised what the conditions that we were working under. I mean, in saying that, you look at the thing on All or Nothing with the Spurs one. There's little veiled messages all over the gaff, and if you've been in the game and you know what you're talking about, or you know what goes on behind the scenes, you can read the script with regards to these veiled messages. The flip side of the coin is I played under someone who he said that people he worked with, he would play players to highlight the fact that maybe they never had enough strength in depth and the aforesaid players weren't good enough. So it was to highlight the fact to the crowd and to the board of directors that what he's been harping on about with regards to getting in new recruits, he just said, let them play and let everyone see, and let them realise, as in the player, that they're not good enough, and let them hang themselves and let everybody, which I thought was a bit of a strange thing in a results-orientated business.
Well, it's risky. I mean, funnily enough, though, I think that happened with Ranieri, with the ex-Spurs left-back. What's his bloody name?
Rose?
Yeah, Rose. Because the first game I saw him, he looked 2 stone overweight and he was terrible. It was actually a Carabao Cup game against Palace. I couldn't believe it. I mean, his size was terrible. Really unprofessional, I thought. And then Ranieri played him against Liverpool when Liverpool smashed Watford 4-1. Salah scored them 2 worldies, almost arguably better than the ones he scored against Man City. And Rose was completely shredded, as you can imagine.
Why did they sign him?
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean,
but what about where was he? Where was he before that?
Maybe Newcastle.
That's right. It was Newcastle.
Yeah, but he's gone.
So the point,
they've released him. They've released
Joe,
him
the point
now
I
already.
make. Listen, when you're in that bubble, if you're in football, it's all things football. So what I'm saying is, I'm sitting there relaxing, or I think I'm relaxing, but really, what you're doing is you're checking things. It's what I said to you. The surprise to me really was the fact that there are no surprises in both of them, all or nothing, Manchester City and Spurs. Well, if you look at the Spurs one, you can see. See me, I'll do it on play to pay basis. You understand? Because so you could see on there from outer space that the kid's got baggage. You understand? And I'm not trying to belittle any problems that he's had off the field, because everybody has problems on a day-to-day basis, especially in the current climate in this.
For sure.
In this world,
Mental
but like
big thing. Yeah,
it helps when you can get by on $100,000 a week. You get me? So a lot of their so-called troubles, in inverted commas, it pales into insignificance compared to everyday life. I've got to be honest with you.
I
but you can
suppose it's
see
all
from outer
relative,
space,
though, isn't it? It's all relative.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I agree. But do your own work. And it's like when people were going on about him, and then he heard it on one of our previous podcasts, and then come out with the same thing. Harry, when I was doing a podcast with you and your dad, and then Alan, Lord Hudson, and Don Shanks, and we said about talking about Wilshere a couple of years ago. I said, well, what's the matter with like bringing him in and say, pay as you play?
Yeah.
It don't have to be like a solid thing because you've got this injury record. It should have been the same with him. You understand? It's a different type of injury, I suppose, when it's up there. But look, you see the kid from outer space has got baggage.
Yeah, and so I suppose just to put a pin in that, it does obviously happen a lot, but it does seem a very risky strategy, particularly when Arsenal play so well at Anfield, and then you bring a player on who's not quite right, gets sent off, the game's over.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it takes you. Even when I go on holiday, it takes me 24 hours just to like get me bearings and get back and calm down from the journey. So I come and fly in and be playing. But like I say, the only agenda I can think of would be to show to the director's box and the owners that this is where we're at. We're down to the corner. I know one of Harry's phrases, we're down to the bare bones. So I've got to bring in someone who's just landed like 8 hours ago, whatever it was, 6 hours ago. They said on the telly it was about 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? And then you're looking. I'm taking people in the cab to the game. I've actually got an app job, so I'm trying to tear that. I thought to myself, well, if it's a 7:45 kickoff, because I said, what time's it kickoff? 7:45 or 8 o'clock? They said 7:45, and I'm just trying to cope with getting them there. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, why'd you leave it so late?
Yeah.
Why'd you leave it to the last minute to leave?
Problem.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, well, he's only landed 6 hours ago,
and he's got all the COVID. They probably had bloody tests
protocols.
Or got no protocols when he landed. He probably didn't get out of the bloody airport till after 2.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, let's talk about Chelsea Spurs then. So Chelsea have been on a pretty shit run since we last spoke. However, they completely nullified
That's a technical term.
The shit runs. Well, that's diarrhea, isn't it? But they've, but yeah, they haven't been playing particularly well.
Too many draws. Yeah.
But completely nullified Spurs and brushed them aside. So it'd be good to get your analysis on that game, Chelsea in general, and then Chelsea is playing Spurs tomorrow in the big Super Sunday, and. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to know what you think about it. What's
the most damning post-match interview I've ever seen.
Go on.
Since the documentary that I was on.
Go on.
But rather than you little C, you big C, and bring your effing dinner, he basically slaughtered the recruitment policy at Spurs and the quality of the playing staff, Conte, especially after the first leg, where I thought. But then in the players' defence, I don't know whether he put things in place to help them in terms of organisation. I saw Kane jogging around. I saw Who's the kid? Was it Mora jogging around? There was no. The key word to come out of it for me was conviction. There was a distinct lack of conviction, a lack of purpose. There was no, when you go, like I'm looking at the thing, maybe tying in with how he's changed things a little bit at Norwich, Dean Smith. When I see a few games ago when people were just playing around them, it's because, and the thing that springs to mind at the time was there was a bit of a nonsense game with Everton, and I see people. I'm pretty sure it might have been Liverpool. I'm not sure. Anyway, so this is how quick it goes now. But they weren't going with any purpose. They weren't going with any discipline. They weren't going with any sense of organisation. There was no sense of propulsion in terms of how they close down. Should I close down? Am I going to get help if I close down? And it's an easy session. When to mark players, when to mark space, and incorporate within that. One of the first keys is pressure on the ball. Well, when it sets the precedent for everybody else.
Yeah,
you understand, and that's the session. If someone's going arvsy, right, and then someone go bump, just take the ball offline and play it around you, then everybody else is still getting set up, and then before you know it, it's like bump, 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 cross, and an attempt on goal. That's what I saw with the Spurs. I thought Chelsea absolutely took the mickey and toyed with them. When you go back a few seasons when they were in the running for the league, the infamous Battle of Stamford Bridge, I ain't condoning like Dyer coming in thigh high on people like Eden Hazard, but what I will say is you've got to at least make a game of it, and you've got to get in and get your foot in and make contact with people. And I just thought tactically they were set up. They might have been set up right, and the players didn't apply it, which is where his post-match vitriol came from.
Yeah.
As in, like, you could see we're a long, long way from the paraphrase, obviously, from the quality that we should be and the quality that we were up against. This is someone having been, but the bottom line is Chelsea haven't really changed the way they play since he was there. So tactically, Conte, I mean, you've got to ask questions of him, because he should know better than anyone, A, the personnel, B, what they're capable of, what their attributes and assets are, and C, the setup from Conte to Frank to Tuchel hasn't really changed.
No.
How it evolves with regards to 5 at the back, and then becoming 3-4-3, becoming 3-3-4. Which is very simple how it evolves, but it's having the discipline to counteract it. And the only team I saw do it really well was a couple of years ago was West Ham, when they beat them 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes people to stick to their job, stick to their task, and they did it. They did it really well. But the thing that stuck out for me, Joe, very quickly, is they were allowed too easily the platform to build attacks on. It basically, Lukaku bullied the centre-backs. No one got wide into him. And then as a centre-back, there was no leadership. There was no one bossing anyone. I thought the front players and the midfield players, so Kane and I think it might have been Lucas Moura, they were too easily played around. You've got to be definitive. It's when their goalkeeper gets the ball, you rehearse, say, like, if you're going to go with Kane and Moura, you say, right, split and make sure you get between the 3 centre backs, so the one in the middle and the 2 on the outside. So just maybe encourage the ball inside, and then if it does come inside, you just sag off and keep your position, let him have it. And then as he runs it in, you got to think about engaging your nearest midfield player to go and press the ball. And then that's when you're asking your fullbacks to be disciplined and squeeze in and keep it tight and narrow. And then as he steps in, the biggest thing for me was no one on the toes of Lukaku. Have a look at the game. If you get a chance, if you have a look at the game, how many times it was just dinked in, right? And Lukaku was able to get it on his chest or pull it down and just set it off. Nice.
It's a pressure valve, isn't it?
Yeah, there was no nobody going in affecting his first touch. No one trying to pinch it. No one even giving away the odd free kick, coming in from behind and killing the attack at source like tactical foul. There was none of that. I just thought diabolical. Chelsea just toyed with them. They just played with them. You know what I mean? And the result was an inevitability. I don't even think they mustered hardly an attack. Yeah, it's very, very disappointing. But from a Chelsea point of view, I mean, it went really well.
Well,
I just thought tactically it was poor.
I was going to say, if you're a player and you're unsure of what you're meant to be doing, and you're half, say halvesy closing down, and you're seeing other people doing the same thing, presumably once that happens, you're fucked.
Yeah, because
like you either got to know what you're doing, and everyone's got to know what they're doing. Yeah,
but that's what I mean by a sense of purpose, and go with conviction. You understand? If you've got no sense of purpose, then nobody's got a sense of purpose.
No,
So you
lost,
because you think yourself, well, hold on, we're getting caught in between you, and they're just playing it round us, and they're having a keep ball at the back, and they were patient until they could actually see the opening. I mean, the flip side of that was the Chelsea v Man City the other day in the thing which I think probably cost them now. Before it even got to the draw with Brighton.
Yeah.
That loss and then too many draws. But I thought there were loads of opportunities where Man City, again, they were fairly compact, but their gauging their depth was such that they left a lot of grass in behind. So every now and again, it don't hurt to mix your game up, because I actually remarked on social media that Chelsea have passed up a lot of opportunities here to threaten the back of Manchester City and get them turned. Because what you've got to think is, and this is where like people like City are concerned, not enough teams ask questions of their back four or their back five, depending on what system they play, or back three. Not enough people ask questions of their goalkeeper in terms of shots and crosses and his starting position, ergo like getting crosses into a dangerous area.
Yeah, put them under pressure.
And not enough people ask questions of their back players in the box, as in is your recovery run spot on? Is your body position right? Do you attack? Do you get across the forward and attack the ball and make sure you make first contact? Have you gauged your depth appropriately? So all wrapped up in a nice little thing where can they defend in their 18-yard box? Not enough questions of asked. So they're more or less beat before they start. And I just thought Chelsea could have done a lot more to threaten the back, even if you know it's not going to be if he's going to be your foundation, Lukaku, rather than which I'm going to come at something else. If the attack's going to be built off of him, then you're looking for players to run beyond him. So if he gets it, keeps it, makes it stick, sets it back, basically someone's got to be going beyond him to get City turned and get you into dangerous areas. But I happen to think that if you think about it, this run of results is eerily coincidental, ties in with when they had the little spat with the interview.
Yeah.
Since then, it ain't been right. You know, they're all right. Yeah, they won the semi-final, but you've had this situation in the league where it hasn't been 100% right. So since he opened his mouth, I'm not really happy with the way we play and this and blah blah blah. Paraphrasing, but obviously he's had this interview in Italy and it's upset the apple cart a little bit. It kept him on the sidelines. Had a chat with him. You know, what one thing I'll say is it's a common denominator right through, regardless of ability, regardless of division. Things have to be right in a club. The mood, you know what I mean. So you've got different situations that I've seen and experienced. If the mood's not right, if the atmosphere is not right, it brings pressure to bear on the playing side of it. And then the opposite is, in the grand scheme of things, all right, okay, it's not that level. But I remember the year we went up when I captained the promotion side in 88-89, everything was right. You know, he took a backward step. Frank Clark, Brian Eastick done all the day-to-day managerial stuff and coaching. And the lads were a good set of lads. And there was a good atmosphere. And there were good pros and good players. If I go through the team, you know, I mean, I'm struggling to say a bad word about any of them in terms of everything. Just for that 1 year, their application and their ability as players and them as people. Yeah. So I just think it ties in with the little spat that they had.
Yeah, and also, you know, I think Lukaku come off. He brought on Werner, Havertz. I think Pulisic might have started. against Man City, if I remember rightly. I mean, let's be honest, are they good enough? Are they good enough? I mean,
For a period of time, I think that probably the answer's been no.
Mm.
Yeah, but they've got by through some of the parts and all that carry on. You know what I mean? Ziyech, he ain't for me. Not my cup of tea.
Well, he scored against Brighton, didn't he? And didn't celebrate. Weird sort of.
I thought he'd do well when he hasn't. Werner. I had this thing with Lord Hudson. He's obviously saw more games at the Bridge than I did.
Don't look like a footballer to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I just think he's got the. Yeah, when you think of his record in Germany, it's almost as if now he's accepted. He's surrendered.
Yeah,
and he's settled into a groove and he's accepted defeat more or less. He's got a prolific scorer over there to nowhere near cutting it over it. Yeah. Pulisic is well documented that certain people think he's too light, and he might be on his way. I mean, what I could see if they're looking to change things again with him, Lukaku. I mean, what was the point in him coming back? You know, the return of the prodigal son. If he's going to kick up a fuss about the way they play and borderline, well, it's up there, isn't it? I don't think it's the record, but it's up there. What is he, 95 million? What's the point in coming back if you're going to come back and upset the apple cart?
Yeah, but also you could argue that maybe not playing to his best ability. I mean, there's the long ball thing, which personally I've never thought he's been fantastic at holding the ball up. I mean, he has his on days, but he also has his off days. Sometimes he can't trap a bag of cement, it seems to me. But you get the ball wide and you put decent crosses in, he'll beat most defenders in the air. He's a big, strong lump, isn't he? And he'd be a danger. But they never seem to do that, Chelsea. Never seem to get the ball wide and put crosses in.
If people go back through our podcast, they'll see on here my remarks about Alonso. I think he was shot 2 years ago.
Yeah.
His legs are gone. He can't get up and down. No. So I think he's been a big miss in terms of supply, Chilwell. And on the other side, they rely a hell of a lot on Reece James, whereas for different reasons, he's chopped and changed it. And I think you've seen him out there a few times. He's hasn't got quite as much flair going forward as Spilicueta. Although it was up until the last 2 or 3 years where he's lost a yard. Again, like I've said on these podcasts, if you was looking at an example to show a kid on how to defend appropriately, and what I mean by that is stand on your feet, closing down, getting within blocking distance, forcing people one way, shutting off avenues of play, covering, recovering, clearances, one-touch clearances, etc. Reading of the game, he would be my prime example. Yeah. But he's gone off. It happens to everyone. He's lost a yard. He's gone over the 30 mark. So then you're left with the degree. I mean, what it is to me, I think. Listen, the flip side of it, Joe, this is what we've got to look at, right? Is how marvellous he's done keeping all these balls in the air to Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah.
You understand? Because you've got all the rumblings. You've got all the rumblings with the uncertainty over the form of the goalkeeper who come in for 79 million. He's been in that. Like the other geezer's been a revelation.
Mendy,
Yeah, so he's rested him in favour of the other geezer who they've done dough on. Then you've got the uncertainty of people playing at centre-back who may or may not sign again. A couple of which I think are vastly overrated. It's like you said in previous podcasts. He's like one sticking his nut in or one bite away from getting a red card. well, isn't it? What's that about? You know what I mean?
I don't get it. He's got the easiest bloke to wind up in the world to get sent off.
Yeah. And yet he's saying, well, if you don't give me this and if you don't give me that, you know what I mean? I might have it on my toes back to the EU and we'll let him go. Let him go. Look for somebody else. You can't twist people. Just my experience. I mean, it's lovely. I mean, I undervalued myself, but the flip side of that coin is you can't twist people's arm up their back to make them stay at a club, financially or otherwise, because then they just become. It ties in with their mercenary attitude, which is unacceptable. And then midfield, and then like the forwards we've spoken about.
So, how do you think it will fare, or they'll fare against Spurs on Sunday? What's your predictions for that game?
Well, it depends on the attitudes of Spurs. Really and truly, See, this is what I mean. You're talking about supposedly in inverted commas the best managers, the best coaches in the world, the highest achieving coaches in the world, the highest achieving players, then the highest achieving coach in the world. In this case, Conte. Well, okay, if you're that world class, then the other guys that they all sing his praises, the Argentinian, they wanted him back. You've got to do what he's done or what he did when there was no replenishment of the squad, and you've got to get the best out of what you got. So, so what one is it? So if he's world class, he's got to set them up in terms of organisation, mindset and attitude to do a lot better than they did in the semi-final, where there was literally no goal threat.
Yeah.
Archie's basically said in the run-up to the second leg, if Chelsea get the first goal, I said, if Spurs get the first goal, it's game on. If Chelsea get the first goal, it's game over. And then what happened is they scored and someone said to me, Sitz, I think it's game over on Twitter. Yeah. And you can't allow that. I mean, who'd have thought the way they played Spurs, right? Who'd have thought it was a semi-final?
Yeah, passive, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, in bygone days, there have been bodies everywhere. I'm talking my era where they wanted to win. Clements in goal. We've known each other since we were kids, played alongside each other at Chelsea and Middlesex and in London. Paul Miller, right? Graham Roberts, Chrissy Houghton. Then in midfield, like people who like really wanted to win and had a feeling for the club, like Steve Perriman, how many 100 games? And then it's like win it, be a soldier, be a warrior, and then give it to Glenn and Ozzy, right? You understand?
Yeah.
And you look at the modern day thing, you think, well, who'd have thought it was a semi-final? Because in their day, there'd have been bodies everywhere to what they call earn the right to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get it. In answer to your question, I just think it's a watershed moment for both, because I think it'll highlight how big a clear out Spurs need, or it'll highlight how big a clear out Chelsea need. Because I said again on social media, who'd have thought the most competitive league in the world over by the second week in January?
Whoa, yeah. Well,
regardless of your bet, I mean, no wonder you've got 16-1. I'm not being funny. I bet the bookies couldn't take your money quick enough. It's over. It's over, even without centre forward, and it shows the genius of Pep. And not only that, the difference in what I saw on the two documentaries. The biggest surprise was I'm not surprised, because you've got like a full of life, effervescent, passionate, knowledgeable coach, and then basically decent players, decent professionals who apply themselves well, and they listen to him and they're willing to, you know what I mean? Okay, fair enough. Off day, take it on the chin, take the criticism. But the other stuff, it's not bionuclear physics. You look at on the thing, when it's time to work, they work. And I looked at the different work ethic in the two camps on the two different documentaries. And then it came down to something as simple as basic as Pep screaming at them. Slight paraphrase. You're tired. He went like that. F you. To the players. You play, you play, you've got a lot of games, paraphrase. Too many games, you've got to fix your pile up, F you. It's too cold. You don't really want to, F you. We're going to work. And multi-million pound players who are multi-millionaires, and knuckled down and got on with it. Yeah. So sometimes it was nice to be proved right. Sometimes it does come down to, basically oversimplistic and basic language.
Yeah, and it seems like it's about recruitment, and you bring in, clearly Man City have brought in. There's been a couple of players that haven't bought into it. Someone like Balotelli, maybe, and maybe Robinho back when they first got the money. But ultimately, they seem to have brought in good people, good professionals that are very good players technically, but more importantly, are intelligent enough to listen, and knuckle down, and haven't got the ego. De Bruyne is one of the best players in the world. The guy hasn't got any ego, hasn't got any overt ego. He doesn't remonstrate, doesn't throw his hands up in the air. He doesn't not do the doggy when he needs to.
You've highlighted really what I want to say, Joe. I think what it is, no one's looked. People have only looked at their successes. No one's really had an intricate look at their failures. But what you've done is you've highlighted what it is. What I wanted to say, which is basically, if you don't, regardless of how many millions we've given for you, you'll get left by the wayside. You understand?
Everyone's expendable, aren't they, at Man City?
Well,
Everyone's expendable.
Yeah, well, that's what. Even down at the level I was, that's what I try to make people realise. You know what I mean? You're not
But
doing me
some
a favour.
teams aren't
You're not
like
doing
that.
me a favour. You're not
No.
doing us a favour if it's taking, like, abusing. I mean, I'm reading a very good book at the moment. I'm nearly the end of it. And there's a lot of parallels there. Pat Nevin, who's regarded as like quite sort of introvert, / extrovert, insular, deep thinker. And it's a very good book. And he more or less sort of intimated the same sort of opinions in terms of approach after my early misdemeanors at the same club, Chelsea, that is. 5 decent years out of 6 in trying to reach the top. But then fundamentally, he's saying at certain stages of his career, he come across players who thought they were doing the club a favour, taking the fans' entrance money, whereas he didn't think it was appropriate. So I think that's what they show there. You know, you're not doing me a favour turning up. You know what I mean? Getting 120 grand a week, going through the motions. That's what I tried to, the mentality I tried to implement years and years and years ago. You know what I mean? So I said it's just like an ATM in the twilight of certain people's careers.
Yeah.
You can't do that to supporters. You've got to respect their hard-earned cash.
Yeah, you should count yourself lucky. Just moving on quickly then. So again, a lot of water under the bridge in terms of the last time we did a podcast, but Norwich have had a renaissance under Dean Smith. It was a weird one because he got sacked by Villa. I think 2 days later he was appointed by Norwich. So
he stayed on the merry-go-round, didn't he?
Yeah, but that seems very, very quick. But to be fair, he's turned them around, and they smashed Watford last night, and that's 2 wins and a bounce out of the bottom 3.
Well, it's know your strengths, isn't it? I should imagine he gets Shakespeare to do all the work.
Yeah.
All the forward play, organisational, set pieces, strategy, defensive strategy, patterns of play. I should imagine he gets Shakespeare to do it all. It's about knowing your strengths, isn't it?
He's done well. And the other one was his old club, Villa. Stevie G, young manager, already got an air of authority about him, and certainly getting some decent results. And recruitment is good in terms of Ramsey and your man at Coutinho.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what he's done. Well, he went to Scotland and done well. Then what he's done is come down here. What was nice for me, 2 things. One is he was being interviewed, and again, if you go back through our 20-odd podcasts, I've said it on here very early before he even came back to England. And then he sort of endorsed it. He said, "For me, the game's all about distances." And then the second thing that he's done really well is he's placed demands on the hierarchy in terms of recruitment. We've got to keep turning people over. We need bodies in. We need to upgrade. They let Grealish go and then try to have, again, the sum of the parts. They try to replace him with an aggregate. Yeah. Right? But then what he's done, he's got on loan a player who's probably up there once upon a time, maybe still is, on a par with Grealish and Coutinho. So that is fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Good for him. And he's probably already earmarked for, I would imagine, England. Future England manager. He's probably streaked past Frank, hasn't he? Eddie Howe's out the equation now. Too long out. Yeah. I still think it's a big ask. If we stick to the original thing with Dean Smith, I just think it's probably similar to Scott Parker at Fulham when I said if he keeps them up, which ultimately they didn't. I said it'd be the biggest achievement in his managerial career thus far. I think the same applies to Dean Smith, and I think if they do stay up, it will be because people around them were worse. Because I still think quality-wise, results breed confidence and belief in the training methods.
Yeah.
Obviously get beat by the odd goal like we was playing magnificent football when I was coaching. You get to the edge of the opposition box, no cutting edge. You rely on one player to score your goals like they were with Pookie. Well, now I think they've addressed that with the other kid alongside him.
Ida. Yeah. He looks lively.
Looks lively, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does a lot. Funnily enough, they're not playing. Well, Billy Gibson didn't play last. Billy Gilmore. I always say Billy Gibson for some reason. Billy Gilmore didn't play. I don't know. Bit weird there. Why you don't seem to be playing.
Chelsea should ask for him back.
Yeah.
Billy Gilmore's better off at a place somewhere like West Ham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he's got like a fellow Scott in charge. I think he's fantastic at getting the best out of people in terms of working with what he's got. And I think he'd be a perfect foil for Rice. And
Rice will probably go to Chelsea, wouldn't he?
No, I mean to play alongside him.
Yeah.
And then you're looking like Billy's like it would be the perfect
foil
player to come in and take the place of, as he's peters out, Noble,
yeah.
You know, getting it, giving it, lend it in, get it back, bump one over there, one round the corner. That's his game, Bill. You know what I mean?
I know we've already spoken about Chelsea, but just on that point, because it relates to Billy Gilmore, do you think this tactic of Chelsea buying 1,000,001 different players and having 70, 80 players out on loan or whatever it was, something stupid, do you think that's helping them? The reason I say that is you look at their bench now, Chelsea, you've got Loftus-Cheek, Barkley, players that are been out on loan who are coming back trying to break into the first team. Do you think it's doing them? Basically, the reason I'm asking the question because I'm looking at it and I think it's a bit of a bitty squad, because they seem to rely on, well, certainly utilise players like Loftus-Cheek, and they don't seem to ever do anything. And Billy Gilmore would be the same if he went back to Chelsea. You know, he wouldn't be playing in front of Kante.
I know he definitely needs another loan. If he's not going to get the minutes there, just say, well, sell me then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But the short answer is yes. It's served them well in the past, and you've just named an international bench. You know what I mean? That's you can't argue with the track record of what's gone thus far. Although they won't win the league this year.
Okay. I'm just thinking, is there anything else you want to touch on before we close out, John?
No, just part of the thing under the bridge was I felt sorry for him because you've been in that position. I've been in that position where you could feel yourself going red, like Rafa Benitez. Although like it's slightly different, he got probably got a multi-million-pound payoff. But I just thought it was a strange appointment in the first place. I thought he might go in and shake them up and get them organised. But it's like I've always said, you need an excuse-free environment. And you know for sure, as soon as they got on a bad run, it was no longer going to be an excuse-free environment. They were going to start caning him about his Liverpool ties. I just think
football.
You look at it and he's questioned the recruitment, which in turn questions the owners. I suspect behind the scenes there's a little bit of a thing going on with regards to, again, which is something I've experienced, certain people being a control freak, and they've got to have an hand in everything. So it's like I said, it's no good throwing a dinner party and asking a chef to cook for you and then going in the kitchen and telling him he's using the wrong ingredients. You know what I mean? You've either got to appoint him and let him get on with it and sift through and turn over the players, or not, as the case may be. And what they've done is they've given him a little while, not long enough. What is it, 8 months? And then he's given his marching orders. But you look at it standard-wise, they're not up to it, and he questioned that, and I think he's paid the price. It's a thin dividing line because what you're actually doing. He's taken a calculated risk at Spurs doing it, Conte. You're questioning whether the players are up to it, and if you've got enough clout, they'll let you turn over the playing staff. If you ain't got enough clout, because he's got on a bad run, you reach a settlement and go.
Yeah, we didn't help with the Everton have already spent $500 million on players.
Exactly.
Which that's why I had to bring in a couple of players. Buck sheep pretty much, didn't he?
Some of them ridiculous, Joe. Yeah. Some of the purchases have been ridiculous. But it's like I said, every club must have its own agenda. And if you've got the wrong people in charge of that agenda, again, from experience, if you've got the wrong people in charge of that agenda, there's only one outcome. And it's the demise of the club. but they treat the supporters' money as another tax. They take them for granted. You know, not everybody can win the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Champions League, the Premier League. There's only going to be a few in contention. But if you put a plan in place, not everyone in the lower divisions can win promotion. But if you put a plan in place and you agree a short, medium, and long-term strategy, you're going to be closer to achieving that than not. In my experience, the way it's turned out, a couple of clubs I was at, they've done all right. Chelsea being one of them, a couple of the others, they're treading water, and one of the others won promotion in 26 years, and an agenda that suits a previous owner in terms of the finances. So the bottom line is, it's like I said, every club's got to have its own agenda, but it's got to be put in the hands of the right people.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm good. Yeah, no. I think we scratched the surface of a few different things there. That's a bit of a hiatus and a layoff. So much has gone under the bridge in terms of, but you look at it and it's just I'm trying to tap into the memory bank. You know what I mean? It's like you've seen like massive changes in things. I'll tell you what. Who I feel sorry for at the moment. I know probably it's good business, 25 million for a centre forward who's over 30 and he ain't got an unbelievable track record of scoring goals, is the Sean Dyche at Burnley. Because what I'm reading articles now, there's 2 or 3 other players whose contracts are up at the end of the season. And then in terms of recruitment in the window, the owners have said to him, and where they're getting it from, I don't know, and how they expect to survive, I don't know. The best they can hope for is a couple of loan players. So it's all like circumstances at different clubs, right, can affect the outcome of what's going on at your club. You understand what I'm trying to say? Absolutely. Like you're talking about Norwich, like I said, with all due respect, the utmost respect, when you look player for player, and then you look medium and long term going into another year, if they do stay up, I just think this is a consequence of goings on at other clubs where other clubs have turned out slightly worse than they were. Yeah,
absolutely. Funnily enough, on that Sean Dyche thing, I mean, to tell Wood your best forward when you're in the bottom 3 in the January transfer window just seems absolutely insane. But there's an Everton job available. Everton could do a lot worse than getting Sean Dyche in.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I was Sean Dyche, I'd go, wouldn't you?
Listen. At the end of the day, you've got if you've got a strong owner, you need a strong manager, right? If you've got a strong owner who comes across a strong manager, inevitably what happens is there's only one winner, right? In terms of who remains at the club, right? But in the interim period, if certain owners who are strong-willed, strong-minded, and let's be fair, at that level, they're using his money. Right, the Everton geezer, is it Mashiri? You say, you know what? Hold on a minute. And I often question. It's like the driving in London. You just think to yourself, how can someone that stupid, right, be so far up the food chain that they can afford a McLaren or a Ferrari, and they're driving like that? You know what I mean? So it's the same. It's the same in terms of in a football club. So sometimes the owner's got to question himself and say, you know what? Hold on a minute. Like you rightly just said, it's just under $500 million we've thrown at this thing, and look where we are. Maybe I've got to take a look at myself, and maybe I should leave it in the hands of someone and give him time who's strong-willed and knows the ropes, and he's a good manager. Because I've said it for a couple of years now. I think it doesn't matter who you are, and he's done absolutely marvellous there. I'm a great admirer of his, and I think he's very he's got a lot of tactical nous, and I think he's very honest and forthright. When I was a player, it's all I wanted, all I could ask, I asked of a manager is for him to give us a sense of direction, sense of purpose, and then be honest with me. And I came across far too many who couldn't get anywhere near that criteria, right? But in terms of Sean Dyche, I think he's the type of guy you'd love to play for. But I have said for a couple of years, Joe, the point I wanted to make is you can outstay your welcome.
Yeah, I think he should go.
Yeah.
He should go. I mean, they're talking about bloody Martinez. I mean, they've already had him. He completely.
Yeah, I don't
He's
get that.
spunked a couple of hundred
I
mil.
don't get that. Yeah, well, you're going out the fat into the fire because they've got problems at the back. And all right, they played some decent football going forward and scored a few goals. But then the big question mark with Martinez was how vulnerable were they at the back. And you've got to get both ends right.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then what's that about? Mourinho. He's got a 3-year deal, hasn't he, over in Italy? All right, they're 7th, and they said it might appeal to him. But what's that about? It's just another payday. I think someone with unfulfilled potential that needs to be tapped into at a bigger place, a slightly bigger stage, and I think someone like him would fit the bill perfectly.
Dyche.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, you know me, I love Scott Parker. Something like him. Scott Parker's should be given a chance. Maybe if he gets Bournemouth promoted.
Yeah, if they get him promoted, yeah. I don't quite get the shout for Frank.
No,
I don't quite get the shout for that. He's better off going and showing what he can do at a club, maybe the division down and get a promotion. Because he had a near miss, didn't he? With Derby, he had a near miss, really. And then you look at the thing goings on there now. I mean, what they give it? Because he played for him. What are they pulling his name up?
Rooney. I know.
All he's shown that he's someone like Leroy. Is it Rosinha?
Yeah.
He do the work behind the scenes with a couple of other coaches, and he's giving out the grey moribund platitudes in post-match interviews. And we've got to do this thing with this, and we've got to do it to show a bit of dignity and this and that. I said
not very inspiring, is it? Not very inspiring.
Nah. Plus, it's a bit late in the day. It's a bit late in the day.
Right, John, I've got to take some Nurofen for my back. I'm seizing up here. So I'll see you later. And as always, everyone, please like, subscribe, follow. As John says, John's had a few more subscribers, so thanks very much for that. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. There will be more, obviously. We'll just keep going, and I hope you all have a good weekend. So it's bye from me, and it's John. I'll leave you to say goodbye.
Yeah, no, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we might have another 3-week layoff so we can get a few more subscribers.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
People have been signing up while we haven't been saying anything.
Exactly. Well, it's just drip feeding, isn't it? You know, it's just don't give too much, because then it gets a bit.
What's that been though? Drip feeding for an hour or more.
yeah. Well, that's it. It's you wait for buses and 3 come along at once.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, cheers everyone, and we'll see you soon.
I wish you better with your back, mate.
Cheers, mate.